Welcome to SVG-TV News for Monday, January 4th, 2021. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. The three-member team from the University of the West Indies Seismic Research Institute in Trinidad on the ground here in SVG continues to closely monitor the Lasso Frey volcano, which is still going through an effusive eruption. As we hear in this report from Larissa Pugsley-Kidd, the new dome in the crater continues to grow daily, and while no evacuation orders have been given, officials from the National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, have paid several visits to communities in the red and orange zones to speak to residents on their level of preparedness in the event they have to move to safer grounds.
Since the Lasso Frey volcano started to ooze magma from an effusive eruption, the new dome created has grown in height and width. So says geologist Vincentian Professor Richard Robertson, who is leading the team of scientists and who was speaking on radio this morning about the volcano. He said though steam, gas and magma continue to ooze from the dome, it is not growing at a rate seen before the 1979 eruption. Professor Robertson gave an estimation and description of the dome based on pictures taken from a flyover on Sunday.
And indicate that it's now sort of laterally it's spread so that it's now beginning to sort of reach one of the outer crater walls. It started sort of next to the dome, the pre-existing dome, and it slowly grew, and it's now just about touching the western crater wall. So that's the main change. So basically it's gotten a little bit bigger.
Cameras and GPS have been installed at strategic locations, and according to Professor Robertson, his team is looking to install more in various communities. In the meantime, they are urging people not to interfere with the instruments. On a radio program on Sunday, Professor Robertson was asked if the current effusive eruption has anything to do with the recent geothermal drilling, to which he said there is no relation.
Someone would have just drilled into the outer skin of the system that is driving the press, which is driven from much deeper down. And what's happening there related to how Frey erupts. It might be related to 1979 in the sense that it might be the leftover of 79%, or it might be the start of something that would then become explosive. We don't believe it's in any way related to what the geothermal which is on the other side.
Meanwhile, the National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, has commenced its sensitization in communities in the red zone, which is primarily in the northern part of the mainland. Director of NEMO, Michelle Forbes, said that while there has been no order to evacuate, persons need to have an evacuation plan and be prepared for any eventuality.
Tomorrow, Tuesday, we'll be at the Fancy Government School from 1 o'clock and then around 4 o'clock in Oya. On Thursday, we will be meeting with the community of Sandy Bay at 3 o'clock at the Sandy Bay Government School, and on Saturday with the community of Georgetown at 3 p.m. at the Georgetown Government School.
Persons are asked to get acquainted with the danger areas in the red and orange zones. There are 30 communities in the danger zone. For the windward end, it is from Fancy to Georgetown, and on the leeward end, it is from Richmond to Belle Isle. Forbes said that persons must remain on alert as the volcano alert level remains at orange. She also urged persons to listen to reliable sources for information, noting that NEMO has nothing to hide and will be sharing information in a timely manner.
And I want persons to really desist from spreading any false information.
For SVG-TV News, Larissa Pugsley-Kidd.
And Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves said that 3,000 rooms have been secured in neighboring OECS countries for nationals in the event of an evacuation. The Prime Minister, who was speaking on the radio yesterday, said that he has spoken to various regional organizations, including the OECS Authority. He said that Antigua and Barbuda, Barbados, St. Lucia and Grenada are some of the countries who have made rooms available for Vincentians if the need arises.
Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda has indicated that the state has a hotel which at the moment is empty. The one at Jolly Harbour, 500 rooms. Similarly, there's one which is empty in St. Lucia.
the Prime Minister of St. Lucia alerted me of this matter, who once had shares in Palm Island. That's 350 rooms. He contacted a friend of his in Barbados, who operates in St. Vincent with an insurance company. They would be able to accommodate 180 persons. Prime Minister Motley has assured me that she can get other rooms if that is necessary or desirable. Prime Minister Spirit has even offered, although they have less rooms.
The Prime Minister said that there would be shelters locally, which will include the Grenadines.
In addition to the water, well, water would be at all of them, but some don't have any water tanks. And that incidentally is a project which we need to do to make sure that all of them should have water tanks on an ongoing basis. But the more modern ones which we build, modern schools which we build them with water tanks. And they have showers. Some don't have showers. So they're different types. But if push comes to shove, we have to save lives and we have to put persons in the accommodation we have available.
Meantime, PM Gonzalez said they are sourcing the use of a helicopter, which will help in executing the work at the Lasso Frere to further assist in the analysis of samples in the crater. He said that he is working with Professor Richard Robertson's 10 recommendations for the use of the helicopter.
You can't just get any ordinary helicopter. You have to get a light helicopter suited for bush flying conditions, with a density altitude of up to 8,000. And we also have to have a helicopter able to work very safely in a dusty environment and in proximity to volcanic ash, advisably with engineered inlet particles and crater. We see some functional arrangements like these. It can be helpful to all concerned. The second is that we are working to SEDIMA. And SEDIMA is trying to get a helicopter out of Trinidad.
In some COVID-19 related news now, we hear that St. Vincent and the Grenadines on Sunday, January 3rd, 2021, confirmed one new COVID-19 case. A release from the National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, said the adult national detected during increased testing for COVID-19 has no recent travel history and that contact tracing, linking and testing related to this new case has commenced. NEMO said retesting of the December 28, 2020 cluster and their contacts will continue even as the wider screening of the Vincentian population for COVID-19 cases intensifies. St. Vincent and the Grenadines has now recorded 124 cases of COVID-19. 100 persons have recovered and 24 remain active. All positive cases will continue to be isolated until cleared by 2 negative tests. The release from NEMO urged everyone to use facial coverings when out in public. And persons are being asked to not take lightly any fever or flu-like symptoms, and if so, to report to the nearest health center. This as the Ministry of Health COVID-19 Task Force increases its screening and contact tracing with instances of persons testing positive for COVID-19 with no recent travel history. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Simone Keyser-Beach is reminding persons of COVID-19 symptoms and for them to check with a healthcare provider if they are experiencing some of these symptoms.
We are asking anyone who has any symptoms of fever, body aches, cough, sore throat, to contact your nearest healthcare facility. And if you're going to the healthcare facility, please wear a mask and travel in a vehicle where you would be the only one in the back, if possible. but wear your mask at all times.
The CMO said following the positive result of an individual locally with no recent travel history, the contact tracing is ongoing and some results were expected later today. She said screening and testing have also intensified.
And one new case not related to the cluster of the 28th of December, not obviously related. We're continuing to do testing, retesting, quarantining, linking. We have increased our screening and increased our testing in all facilities. And we should be able to give additional information by the end of today into tomorrow because we have quite a bit of results pending.
The CMO said that the wearing of masks has been commendable by members of the public and in business places.
The thing is that we would urge everybody to comply. We are pleased with the response, with the use of masks, and we urge everybody to really comply and to follow the existing recommendations, measures, wear your mask, sanitize, physically distance where possible.
And the Ministry of Health, Wellness and the Environment will host a news conference tomorrow, January 5th, 2021 at 10:30 a.m. at the Ministry's conference room. The conference is to update the nation on matters related to COVID-19. All COVID-19 protocols will be enforced at this conference. And effective today, Monday, January 4, 2021, travelers from Barbados are expected to be quarantined in approved hotel for 10 days as they are now categorized as arriving from a high-risk country. This change in the protocol for entry of travelers to SVG was announced on Saturday by the National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO. Barbados was moved from medium risk to high risk, given a spike in COVID-19 cases in the country over a 2-day period, which saw almost 200 people tested positive for the COVID-19 virus. There are over 33 countries categorized as high risk, including the United States and the United Kingdom. A change has also been made to the protocol for entry of travelers to SVG from medium risk countries, who will now have to spend 5 days in an approved hotel. The protocol lists medium risk countries as Taiwan, Cuba, and Antigua and Barbuda. Low risk countries are Anguilla, Dominica, Montserrat, St. Kitts and Nevis. Travelers from these countries must arrive with a negative result of a COVID-19 RT-PCR test done no more than 72 hours before arrival. May be tested on arrival in SVG at the discretion of the port health officer. The country of residence is defined as the last country that the traveler was present in for at least 21 days. With the recent increase in COVID-19 cases, all visits to inmates at Her Majesty's prisons have been cancelled until further notice. A news release issued today said this is part of steps taken to secure the prison environment. In the interim, the prison service said persons are allowed to drop off clothing, money, and other authorized articles for inmates, and that all visitors are to utilize a sanitizing facility station at the prison entrance before entry. Civilian traffic on the prison compound has also been limited, and only persons conducting business with the prisons would be allowed on the compound. All persons entering the prison compound must wear a face mask, including police officers. All prison officers are also expected to wear face masks while on duty, and also are encouraged to wear them off duty. The news release further noted that no more than 3 persons at a time would be allowed to sit in the waiting area, and that no work parties would go outside the prison compound except those that work for the police. Inmates who go out to work with the police are now expected to wear face masks, as well as inmates going to court. In more local news now, we hear that schools across St. Vincent and the Grenadines will remain closed for an additional week beyond the scheduled reopening date, which should have been today, Monday, January 4, 2021. In a release issued on Saturday night, the Ministry of Education and National Reconciliation said on the expert advice provided by the Ministry of Health and the Environment, school will now be reopened on January 11, 2021. The Ministry of Education said that they will make every effort to ensure that students are not adversely affected by the extended period of school closure. Reassuring the public that the health and safety of all is very important, the ministry encouraged stakeholders, including parents, guardians, teachers, and students, to continue to work harmoniously to rise above the challenges presented by the COVID-19 pandemic. It also asks persons to continue to adhere to the existing protocols. The Ministry of Transport and Works today handed over 3 omnibuses to Member of Parliament for North Leeward Carlos James to transport school children in the area to and from capital Kingstown. The handed over ceremony took place on the compound of the Ministry of Transport. Minister of Transport Montgomery Daniel said the handing over of the buses is part of the government's efforts to improve and enhance education across the country.
The government over the last 20 years has been putting a lot of resources into the Ministry of Education to improve and to enhance education in this country, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Last year, of the national budget, 14% of the national budget went to education. And that is to show you the trust that this government would have been putting into education. Within the Ministry of Transport and Works, this is a ministry that is responsible for all government vehicles. And the Cabinet, in its wisdom, has recently approved to have 3 new buses for the constituency of North Leeward.
Minister Daniel said that the government has been working along with the private omnibus operators to transport children to school. However, he noted that there have been complaints about their services.
How does the ministry operate in this regard is that the government on one hand assists in providing some of the buses, while on the other hand, private contractors are taken on board to assist in this regard. But we have observed over the years that some private contractors have not been meeting their obligations to the extent that a number of the children have been complaining. We as a government want to work with the private sector to enhance our way of life and living. But it has to be done in a way that is acceptable to all. And so, where there are difficulties, where private contracts are not being done in the best interest of everyone, then the government has to respond in this regard.
The Transport Minister said that North Windward, which he represents, will also be facilitated with 2 new buses for the new school term.
North Leeward is now being looked at this point in time. They are having 3 new buses. Equally, North Windward is being looked at as well. They too will be facilitated with 1 or 2 buses during this school term. There is also an appeal from the representative for the constituency of Maracor to assist in children in that constituency coming to Kingstown, and that is presently being looked at. So that where there are difficulties, the Ministry of Transport and Works have been zooming in to ensure that we can do our best to improve the overall situation.
Area Representative for North Leeward, Carlos James, thanked the government and the Ministry of Transport for the 3 new school buses received today. Minister James said that there's been a lot of challenges for children in the area getting transportation to and from school.
To say formally thank you on behalf of the people of North Leeward to the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We know we have had some challenges in the past with children attending schools, and though we have had private contractors being assigned to transport the children to and from schools, we have had some challenges in the past with some of the private contractors. In fact, children being left on the road stranded. We have had some difficulties in that regard and so on. By increasing the fleet of school buses, it enables us in North Leeward to properly get our children to and from school in a timely manner, in a safe manner, and in a responsible way.
Minister James cautioned the drivers of the buses to be very responsible, ensuring the students get to and from school safely.
Be very responsible, not to abuse the vehicles, and to ensure that there is at all times a level of professionalism in executing their duties, in ensuring that our nation's children are getting to and from school safely. This is by and large an important undertaken by the government. I know within a period of COVID-19 and a period that is going to be very difficult for us economically, we have taken that initiative to ensure that, notwithstanding these challenges, we're equipping the Ministry of Education with the right tools, and including the vehicles here, to ensure that our children can attend school in a timely manner and in a safe manner.
And Minister of Education Curtis King also thanked the government for providing the buses and said all efforts must be made to ensure they are taken care of.
Education, we are charged with the responsibility of the education of our children, and one of the major issues in that undertaking is ensuring that students have access to our educational institutions. And in several areas throughout this country, we have some challenges with students getting to school on time. The North Leeward area is one of those areas, and we are very happy this morning that we as a government has undertaken to deal with this issue in such a way as to bring relief to some of those students who are affected by the issue of transportation.
2 of the buses will take the route from Chateaubelair to Kingstown, and 1 will take the route from Spring Village to Central Leeward. At 9:20 a.m. on New Year's Day, a bouncing baby boy became the first live birth of 2021 at the Milton Cato Memorial Hospital. Weighing 4 kilograms or just over 8.5 pounds, the healthy infant and mom were discharged from the hospital today. A total of 6 live births were recorded on New Year's Day, including 4 males and 2 females. On Sunday, January 3rd, the mothers of the first 2 male and female babies born on New Year's Day were gifted by Sagicor Insurance at a presentation on the maternity ward. All babies and their mothers are reportedly well and have since been discharged from the hospital.